When I think about passing the baton, and we have these people in our circle of influence that we want to pass our faith on to, it just I don't know if it's because Valentine's Day is this week or not, but I feel like if we aren't showing these people love, then we are not going to be able to reach them um, in the way that God would have us to. And so that has been my thought for the past couple of weeks, that we have to love people, and I need to love people better. So when I look at the definition of love, we think of it as a feeling, an emotion. Um, and when I look up the definition, that's what it shows. It's strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties. And it talked about personification of love. It could be a god, such as Cupid represents love. But it reminded me of 1 John 4:16. God is love. He is love. It is personification. Um, what we think of as an emotion being given to an actual noun, a thing, God. So God is love, and he who abides in love abides in God, and God in him. So we have to be more loving. And love is a verb, it is an action word. Being a teacher, we spend a lot of time teaching kids the parts of speech. What is a noun? What is a verb? Verb is an action word. And so the definition of love as a verb was to hold dear, cherish, to like or desire actively, to take pleasure in, to thrive in. So love is a choice, and love is an action. It is something that we do. And when I think about it being a choice, there may be times when we don't feel the emotion of love, the butterfly feelings, but it's a choice that we make, and it's an action that we make, and it's the things that we do that show love. And I think when we don't feel it as an emotion, then that's something we need to pray about. But 1 Peter 1:22 says, now that you have purified yourselves by obeying the truth, so that you have sincere love for each other, love one another deeply from the heart. And so purifying ourselves by obeying the truth is that we are going to love God first. And through that loving him, then we are going to be able to have a sincere love for other people and to be able to show that sincerely. So I've just been thinking about relationships. Who is it that I want to pass this baton of faith to? And so I immediately think of my daughters-in-law. I have two of them. And, we get along great. Rarely is there ever anything that is concerning to me. However, I know that there's the potential in a mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship for strife or uncomfortable situations. And I found this little chart, and there are so many different factors that go into these relationships. And you think about the different families that the daughter-in-law and the son may have grown up in, the different beliefs they may have had. When children come into the picture, what are their beliefs in raising the children? How about the other in-laws? How does that dynamic work? And so there's just a lot going on in a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship. And it reminded me of the story of Naomi and Ruth, and how Ruth chose to love Naomi, and Naomi chose to love Ruth. And if you haven't read the book of Ruth, I urge you to go back and read it. Sometimes I just go back and read it again because it's encouraging. And Ruth 1:16-17 says, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you." And this is Ruth talking to Naomi. "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." So I was thinking about all the different things about the relationship of Ruth and Naomi that could have been difficult. First of all, Ruth was raised in Moab. She was a Moabitess, and she was raised as a pagan. She was raised to believe that young girls would be sacrificed to their gods. Um, After the death of each of their spouses, Elimelech, Mahlon, and Chilion, the widows, they had no one to care for them. And in that day and age, that was, vital. You had to have a husband or a brother or someone who would care for you. And so at this point, Naomi tried to get these girls to go back to their families so that they could remarry and have a life there and not struggle. And Orpah did turn back, and she went back to Orpah did go back to her family to stay there in Moab, but Ruth, she was committed. And I just think all of that could have been very stressful. Naomi trying to get them to go back so that she could go on to Bethlehem, go back to her home. But Ruth just decided, no, I'm going to go with you. And so Naomi didn't know what the future would hold. Um, would they have a place when they go back? Would they be accepted? She knew she could glean the fields and survive there. So they went. Um, and I thought about Ruth being a Moabitess. Would she be accepted in Bethlehem? I'm sure that was very difficult. She was seen as different. And then, move this out of the way. Naomi was returning to a land where she didn't have resources. Would she have family there that would take her in? There were a lot of unknowns. And so I'm sure the stress of all of that was great. But they chose to love one another. And in a CBN devotion, I read this by Kim DeHoog. "We have all been put on earth together for a reason, and the difficulty of love is exactly what enables it to be so powerful. When we have no choice about who to love, love becomes harder. Perhaps we need to stop waiting for a feeling of love. The fact is, when we can't choose the people we love, we choose to love the people we have. And that is a far richer experience. And in doing so, we reflect the love of God, who chose to love us before any of us loved him." And something else I read this week was that God loved each of us so much that if we were the only human, the only one, he would have still died on that cross for just us. And so we can think of that and see how personal his love for us is. It's so great, and we often don't feel it. Um, but when we stop and reflect on that, and we truly come to understand how much he loves us, then we need to look for ways to choose to love the people we have. So I want each of you to think of someone. It may be a daughter-in-law, it could be a niece, it could be a neighbor, it could be children in your children's church class, your Sunday school class that you teach. It could be your sons, your grandchildren, um, whoever this person is that God has put on your heart since we've been doing this study of Pass the Baton. I want you to think of that person. And I put the picture here from the War Room movie. because this lady was able to pass the baton to her realtor. And, sometimes we don't think of people that aren't in our family as being the person we pass the torch to, but it definitely could be. So, how can we choose to love this person? And I know you've all heard in sermons the different types of love, eros, the romantic love, phileo, brotherly love, um, storge, the love of family members. But agape love is God's love, the love he extends to everyone. Agape is results in action, not feelings. It's listed first in the fruit of the Spirit, which you can go back and read in Galatians 5:22. And we can agape love even when we don't feel like it, because it's a choice. And it's a choice that imitates God's love. So when we think about these fruit of the Spirit, examine your heart and ask, do I feel this for this person that I'm wanting to pass the baton to? And um, I think it's a good exercise to just think about it. Am I gentle with this person? Am I patient with them? Maybe they're not getting to where I want them to be fast enough. Maybe they aren't doing a certain thing the way I think it should be done. But am I patient and am I kind to this person? Because if we are not, they are not going to accept the baton from us. They have to know that we love them first. So we have a couple of different things that I would like for you to do this week. And I know, we don't have much time. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day, but I think you could do this anytime and it would be well received. So I'm encouraging you this week to do at least one Valentine card to the person that you have in mind that you want to pass the baton to show them your love and just express to them something that could be a lesson in passing the baton, sharing your faith. And so I've got some ideas here for how you can make a Valentine card. Think back to grade school to making a little homemade card. It could be a store-bought one, but if you make one, it's going to be mean even more. I have made 2 printable sheets for you. One has got this 1 Corinthians 13, 4, 7 through 8. Love is. You all know that. Love is patient, kind, does not envy, does not boast. You can print those off and cut them out and put them in your card. There's 6 to a page, so if you want to do extras or send them to multiple people, I encourage it. And then if you remember a few lessons back, we talked about breath prayers. Well, it's no surprise that Becky sent me an email this morning with a devotion that was talking about breath prayers. And so I just made a little screenshot of this. But this is something you could glue in your card, and it's passing the baton of faith to your person of a way to deal with stress through little breath prayers. You inhale, Jesus. You exhale, help me. Breathe in, I cast my cares on you. Breathe out, because you care for me. And that is coming from 1 Peter 5:7. Cast your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And when I think about my 2 daughters-in-law, one right now is expecting a baby in about 3 weeks. So I know she's nervous, and I think she would benefit from this exercise. And my other daughter-in-law, Haley, is a nurse, and she is in a very stressful position. They're shorthanded. She is a labor and delivery nurse, so she is constantly feeling the pressures of not making a mistake with the awesome task of helping women bring life into the world. So I'm going to put the breath prayer in their cards that I make for them. And I thought this little drawing was so simple, the little stick character, I love you this much. And we can all draw that and write that inside of our card. And that would be a simple, sweet way to encourage our people that we have chosen. Then in our journal, I have just a few inspiration pictures here. One is to use the spray paint. I'm going to show you how I did that, and it's very simple. In this top picture, I loved the little hearts that have been torn out of book page. I like how they've inserted little pockets and just used strips of paper that could be washi tape and just random paint stripes to add a little bit of color and texture to the page. And then on this one down here at the bottom, I love the little bookmark. And so I'm going to show you how I made or am in the process of making a little bookmark. So now I'm going to show you my journal and all of these different little projects that are scattered all over my desk. Help. Push the wrong thing. Sorry about that. So first of all, I'm going to show you how I did the background of my page. You remember last week I used the gesso, the white gesso. I just wiped some on this little old gift card from Orange Leaf, and I just covered my page with it. That just creates a barrier that keeps paint from soaking through. You don't have to do that. You could actually do this on another sheet of paper and then glue that down, or you could use probably white acrylic paint, may do the exact same thing. It may not have the same texture to it, but use what you have, ladies. Don't go out and buy things if you don't have it. Then I took scrap paper that was out in the garbage can. These were magazine pages where I cut out some pictures, and I just folded it and cut out some little hearts. You know, cut out half of a heart on the fold, open it up, and you have your little heart shapes. I laid those down on my page and used a napkin to block off so that the overspray doesn't get on everything around you. So you're going to want to, lay it in places to block the overspray. And I used this Distress Oxide spray, a pink color that I bought a long, long, long time ago at Hobby Lobby on clearance for maybe $1 or $2. However, you can make the same thing with a little spray bottle. This is one that I've used. You've seen me use it before to wet watercolors and things. It's a lens cleaning bottle. You can add some tempera paint or some acrylic paint, just a few drops to some water in a little spray bottle, and you can do the exact same thing. So you don't have to buy the distress spray if you don't already have it. Just add some paint to some water in a spray bottle, and then spritz it. And I just spritzed maybe 3 or 4 sprays, and then I took these off and I had the heart shapes. Then I took two size markers and just, you've seen me do it before, just quickly go around it. Don't overthink it. I did it with the thicker line and then with the thin point line. And that just gives it a little bit of definition. And I'm going to put my Bible verses in here. So I'm going to use the scriptures that were in the lesson, and I'm going to put them in here. I'm going to write some of the quotes. I'm going to put some stripes going up and down, like in the inspiration picture, maybe some washi tape in different places. And then I wanted an envelope. So I just started looking in my stash. I had this little bag that was, they had like little bags that made pockets, but you could certainly use an envelope like we've done before to create a little hinged pocket. You could use a bag. I happen to have a heart bag. I just, when I run across something like this, I put it in a tote that has envelopes or bags. And so I had this, and I made it was too long. It was really long. So I folded it, the length, to hide my little Valentine card that I received that I'm going to show you. and I sewed along the bottom. If you don't have a sewing machine, you could just glue that, and I cut off the extra. With that extra, I'm making a little hinge, and the hinge is going to allow my little envelope, my bag, to fold out. And I haven't decided where I want it to go yet, so I'm just going to show you the concept, and then you can decide where to put it. It could go inside here and be a flap. I could put it on the edge of my page and turn it this way. The hinge would have to go the opposite direction, and it could open this way or over here and open this way. So once I decide where I'm going to put it, I'll glue this to the bag, and then I will glue the other side of the hinge, and that's how you can make something open up. And you've heard me say before, I love surprises in my journal. I love it when I go and I find things tucked in there. And so that's another way to do it. Inside of my little bag, Mom, the last time she was here, she left this in an unexpected place, and I just happened to find it. And it was just a little note telling me that I'm the best caregiver. And it was very encouraging. She had made those with her children's church kids, and she made hers for me. So I want to keep that in here. And you might make one of your note cards and put it in here as a reminder that you can do this more often. It doesn't have to just be at Valentine's Day. And so the next thing I wanted to show you was the bookmark. I love the little bookmark in our inspiration picture. And so I just took a punch that I got at Goodwill, that if you don't have one, just cut one out the same way I showed you to cut out the bigger hearts. Just cut out a small one. I put a little bit of washi tape, and then I wrote agape love, true love. That's true love. And then I cut out a little triangle piece to go down here on the bottom of my heart. And I clipped the paper clip on top of that. So you can really use any shape of paper. I could just use a little long piece there. But on the back side that I'm going to glue down, I'm going to put my glue over top of the paper clip and the paper. And I'm going to glue it down. That's going to hold the paper clip in place. And then this side is out, so it's not going to be glued down. And that's the piece that will actually go over the page and work as a paper clip. Now you can see I probably have little edges sticking out. Well, one. Figured I'd have more than that. If you have little edges sticking out, you can just trim those off later. But I can use my little clips that I got at the Dollar Tree. I use these all the time for everything. And let that dry, and then it will clip on the page. And so you could actually clip a card in here. You don't have to have an envelope or a pocket if you don't want one. You could just have your little paper clip. This can also work as a bookmark. When you see those little hearts sticking up, you know that's your page on love, just like I know this is my page on being grateful, because I have that fall leaf sticking out. So when you add that, it helps you maneuver through your journal quickly when you want to find something. Okay, the other thing I want to show you is an idea for making a card using a cluster. Well, here are the little cutouts that I told you I'm going to include in my card. The breath prayer, and you may want to make those bigger, print them out bigger. You can do that. You could edit the link that I had there in the presentation, and then the little verse. So you can glue those in. I have some little blank cards. They don't have anything on them. They're just blank, but you could use construction paper. And I like to make little clusters. And clusters are just scrap paper that you put together in such a way that it makes a little decoration. They're super fun to make. They're easy. And I'll show you right quick kind of my process, which is not anything great. It's just quick and easy. I take a piece of paper. I lay it down on top of another piece of paper. I take a few more pieces. And then I might even take a piece of lace or a little piece of fabric. Could have a little piece of brown paper under it. If you have Fabri-Tac glue, you can glue it. If you have a sewing machine, you can just run a few stitches over top. But Becky makes these all the time and she does not sew. So this is for everybody. Girls, there are no excuses. And Becky, I don't mean that if you can do it, anybody can do it, but you might would say that. But I'm certainly not saying that. So then after you get those little things glued on, give them a minute to dry and then just tear around it. And you can do this with scrap paper.
I love you.
Okay, see who's at the door. See if it's midnight.
So there we go. And you've got a little cluster that you could put on top of a card. You could write whatever you want to write.
Okay.
And on the inside, put your breath prayer, your little 1 Corinthians, and a note. And it should be something you appreciate about that person. To let them know that you're thinking about them and you want to show them some love. Here you can see I added a little bit of eyelash trim. Here a little piece of fabric, a little piece of doily. So you can do whatever you want to make those little clusters. Another thing you can do is use the little doilies like Mom did with the kids. That turned out great. So I think that's all of the stuff I wanted to show.